My girlfriend whispered, "I made $4,000 this month, and he still thinks I'm unemployed," while hiding her phone. I said, "Got it," wondering why she never shared $1 as I paid every bill, until a slip of paper revealed who she'd really been. So I finally figured out what my girlfriend has been doing for the past 8 months, and honestly, I feel like an idiot for not seeing it sooner. I'm 28, work as a warehouse team supervisor for a logistics company here in Ohio. Make around $55K a year. Nothing fancy, but it's steady work with good benefits. My girlfriend Indy is 26, and until 8 months ago she worked in accounting at the same company. That's actually how we met. I'd have to coordinate with her department for shipping reports and inventory stuff. 8 months ago, Indy quit her job. She told me her manager was sexually harassing her, creating a hostile work environment, and she couldn't take it anymore. I was completely supportive. Told her to quit immediately, that I'd cover our expenses while she found something new, and that no job was worth dealing with that kind of treatment. Here's where I should have started paying attention. From day one of her unemployment, Indy's story about job hunting never quite added up. She claimed she was doing freelance social media consulting work, helping small businesses with their Instagram and Facebook presence. Sounded legitimate enough, and honestly, she's always been good with social media, so I didn't question it. She said she was building a client base slowly but surely. But here's what I started noticing over the past few months. Indy was always home when I got off work at 4:30. Always. If she was really hustling to build a freelance business, wouldn't there be meetings, client calls, some evidence of her actually working? When I'd ask about her day, she'd give vague answers. Had some calls with potential clients. Working on a content calendar for this small business. Researching market trends. But never any specifics. Never any names. Never any actual contracts or payments she could show me. What really started bothering me was her phone behavior. Indy is constantly on her phone now, constantly, but not in the way someone running a business would be. She's always laughing at messages, smiling at her screen, but the second I come near her, she minimizes whatever she's looking at or puts the phone face down. Last week I asked if I could see some of her client work, just because I was curious about what she was building. She got defensive immediately, said I was being controlling, that I didn't trust her, that she was working on confidential projects, and couldn't share details. That reaction felt way over the top for such a simple question. Then there's the money situation. I'm covering rent, utilities, groceries, gas for her car, basically everything. Which I was fine with initially, because supporting your partner through a career transition is what you do. But I started noticing that while I'm paying for all the essentials, Indy is somehow able to afford expensive makeup, new lingerie, professional nail appointments, and clothes from places like Sephora and Victoria's Secret. When I asked about it, she said she was treating herself occasionally for confidence, and that the small amounts she was making from freelance work were going toward building her personal brand. I wanted to believe her, but something felt off. If you're unemployed and your boyfriend is covering all your living expenses, how do you justify spending money on luxury items instead of contributing to household costs? I've been supporting us for 8 months now, and I'm starting to feel like I'm being taken advantage of. Not because I mind helping her financially. If she was genuinely looking for work or building a legitimate business, I'd be happy to support that. But because I'm getting the feeling she's not being completely honest about what she's actually doing all day. My coworker Flint thinks I'm being naive, but I don't want to be the controlling boyfriend who demands to see her phone or interrogates her about every dollar she spends. At the same time, this situation is starting to affect my own financial stability, and I need to know if we're working toward the same goals. Am I being reasonable in wanting more transparency about her work situation? Or am I being paranoid and controlling? Edit. For context, before she quit, Indy made about $38K at her accounting job. We were splitting most expenses roughly proportionally to our income. She's mentioned maybe getting back into traditional employment, but every time I bring it up, she says the freelance work is just about to take off, and she doesn't want to commit to something that would interfere with building her business. Eat it too. A few people are asking why I haven't just directly asked to see evidence of her work. I guess I'm scared of what I might find out. If she's lying about this, what does that say about our entire relationship? Edit 3. Thanks for all the responses. I'm starting to realize I need to have a direct conversation about this instead of just hoping things will become clearer on their own. Update 1. So I had the conversation with Indy about needing more transparency, and honestly, her reaction confirmed a lot of my suspicions. I approached it as gently as I could, told her I wasn't trying to control her work, but since I was covering all our expenses, I needed to understand what our timeline looked like for her contributing financially again. Asked if she could show me her client roster, her rates, maybe some of the content she'd been creating. The reaction was immediate and intense. She accused me of not trusting her, said I was treating her like a child, and claimed that constantly questioning her work was affecting her mental health. She said she was already dealing with depression from the harassment at her old job, and my demands for proof were making it worse. Then she said something that really stuck with me. "I'm not your maid, Wade. I'm going through a difficult transition, and if you can't support me without treating me like an employee, maybe we shouldn't be together." I backed off immediately because I didn't want to seem like I was attacking her while she was struggling. But looking back, I think that might have been exactly what she wanted. Over the next week, I started paying more attention to the inconsistencies in her story. She claims to be building a social media consulting business, but I never see her creating content, researching trends, or doing any of the actual work that would be involved. She's always on her phone, but it's never for business calls or client communication that I can observe. Wednesday, something happened that made everything click into place. My coworker Flint was running errands during lunch and saw Indy at Eastgate Mall around 1 p.m. She was dressed up, full makeup, nice outfit, the works, and had shopping bags from expensive stores. When he mentioned it casually, like, "Hey, saw Indy at the mall today," I realized there was no way that fit with her story. If she was really hustling to build a business and struggling financially, why would she be shopping at expensive stores during the middle of the day? And why would she be dressed like she was going to a photo shoot instead of working from home? When I asked her about it that evening, she said she'd been meeting with a potential client about their retail social media strategy and had needed to dress professionally. Said the client wanted to meet at the mall to discuss their target demographic in person, but she couldn't give me the client's name, the company name, or any details about what the meeting involved. Just vague answers about market research and location scouting. I'm starting to feel like I'm being lied to systematically, and it's making me question everything. If she's not actually working on building a business, what has she been doing for 8 months while I've been paying for everything? The worst part is that I can see how my questioning is affecting her mood. She's become more defensive, more secretive, and more quick to turn any conversation about money into an argument about trust and control. I don't want to be the guy who demands to monitor his girlfriend's every move, but I also don't want to be the guy who gets taken advantage of because he was too trusting to ask basic questions. Edit. Several people are suggesting she might be doing something like cam work or OnlyFans. I honestly hadn't considered that, but it would explain the secrecy, the schedule, and the expensive purchases. I don't know how I'd feel about that, but at this point, I just want the truth. Edit 2. I'm going to give her one more chance to be honest with me about what's actually going on. If she can't or won't explain how she's affording luxury purchases while I pay for everything, I think I have my answer about where this relationship stands. Update 2. So I found out what Indy's been doing, and it's somehow both exactly what some of you predicted and worse than I imagined. The discovery happened completely by accident. My neighbor Dex works in IT and happened to mention seeing packages addressed to Indy from companies he recognized. He wasn't trying to snoop. Our mailboxes are right next to each other, and he'd noticed the return addresses while getting his own mail. "Dude, I don't know if I should tell you this," he said, "but your girlfriend's been getting deliveries from companies I know are adult industry suppliers, ring light manufacturers, lingerie distributors, camera equipment vendors. I work with e-commerce sites, so I recognize the names." My stomach dropped, but I needed to be sure. That afternoon I checked our mailbox and found invoices that Indy had apparently missed: professional lighting equipment, camera accessories, and what were clearly adult industry supplies. When I confronted Indy with the evidence, she broke down immediately and admitted everything. She's been creating content for OnlyFans for the past 6 months, earning between $3,000 and $4,000 per month. Let me repeat that. She's been making more money than she did at her old job, while I've been covering every single one of our living expenses because I thought she was unemployed. But here's the part that really destroyed me. She never intended to contribute financially to our relationship. She told me she'd been saving all her OnlyFans income because she was planning to move out eventually and needed money to start over on her own. She'd been using me as free housing and financial support while building up a nest egg to leave me. I needed to know I could support myself, she said through tears. I couldn't just keep depending on you forever. The irony was stunning. She was planning to become independent by making me completely financially responsible for her life while she secretly saved money behind my back. But here's where it gets even worse. I asked her when this all started, and she admitted she'd been doing OnlyFans before she even quit her job at our company. She didn't quit because of harassment. She quit because she was using the office bathroom to take photos and videos for her content, and she thought she was about to get caught by security cameras. So not only had she been lying to me for 8 months about being unemployed, she'd been lying about why she left her job in the first place. There was no harassment, no hostile work environment, no legitimate career transition. Just calculated deception designed to manipulate me into supporting her while she built an exit strategy. When I asked why she couldn't have just been honest about any of this, she said she knew I'd be judgmental about the OnlyFans work and wouldn't have been supportive if I'd known what she was really doing. But that completely misses the point. I'm not upset about her doing sex work. All right, sure. I guess that's a yes. I'm upset about being lied to for 8 months and manipulated into paying for her life while she secretly saved thousands of dollars planning to leave me. If she'd been honest from the beginning, we could have had an actual conversation about boundaries, expectations, and how to handle the situation as a couple. Instead, she chose deception and manipulation. I told her she needed to find somewhere else to live by the end of the month. I can't continue a relationship built on this level of dishonesty, and I can't keep financially supporting someone who's been planning to abandon me all along. Edit. For people asking what I would have done if she'd been honest, honestly, I don't know. The OnlyFans thing would have been difficult for me, but the lying and financial manipulation is what makes this unforgivable. Edit 2. She's been trying to convince me to give her another chance, promising she'll quit the OnlyFans work if I want her to. But I don't think she understands that the problem isn't the sex work. It's the systematic deception and using me as financial support while planning to leave. Final update. So I thought I knew the full scope of Indy's deception, but it turns out there was an entire other layer I hadn't discovered yet. Yesterday I got a call from her younger sister Raven, who wanted to talk to me about something that had been bothering her. Indy comes from a very religious family. Her dad is actually a pastor at their local church, and they've been incredibly supportive of what they thought was her difficult unemployment situation. According to Raven, their family has been sending Indy care packages with groceries, household supplies, and cash to help her through this tough time. Her parents have been praising me to their entire congregation as the good Christian boyfriend who was supporting their daughter through job loss and emotional recovery. The family has sent approximately $2,400 in cash over the past 8 months, thinking they were helping their unemployed daughter survive while her generous boyfriend covered the major expenses. Every single dollar of that money went straight into Indy's personal savings account, the same account where she was storing her OnlyFans earnings to fund her eventual escape plan. So not only was she manipulating me into paying for everything while she secretly earned thousands per month, she was also manipulating her religious family into sending money by pretending to be financially desperate, money that they could barely afford to give, thinking they were helping their daughter avoid homelessness. When I told Raven what I'd discovered about the OnlyFans work and Indy's real financial situation, she was devastated. Their family had been sacrificing their own financial comfort to support what they thought was their daughter's genuine need, while she was actually earning more than she ever had and lying to everyone about it. Raven asked if I would be willing to speak with their parents, because she felt they deserved to know the truth about where their money was going and what their daughter was actually doing for work. I agreed to call Pastor Glenn and explained everything as gently as I could. He was quiet for a long time, then asked if I was absolutely certain about what I'd discovered. When I confirmed that I'd seen bank statements, equipment receipts, and had recordings of Indy admitting everything, he thanked me for telling him. The family cut off all financial support immediately. Pastor Glenn called Indy and told her they knew about the OnlyFans work and the financial deception. According to Raven, he didn't disown her, but he made it clear that they couldn't continue supporting someone who was willfully deceiving them about fundamental aspects of her life. Indy's reaction was to blame me for ruining her relationship with her family, and claim that I'd exposed her out of spite. She said I was trying to destroy her life because I couldn't handle her independence and success. The lack of accountability was stunning. Even when faced with the full scope of her deception, lying to me about being unemployed, manipulating her family into sending money they couldn't afford, planning to leave me after using me for financial support, she still saw herself as the victim. She tried one last manipulation, promising she would quit OnlyFans entirely and get a traditional job if I'd give her another chance. Said she realized she'd made mistakes and wanted to rebuild our relationship on honest foundations. But I'd learned something important about her character over these past few weeks. When someone is willing to systematically deceive the people closest to them, their partner, their family, that's not a mistake. That's a pattern of behavior that reveals who they really are. I told her we were done, and she needed to be out by the end of the week. She moved out Thursday. According to Raven, she's planning to relocate to another state to live with some guy she met online who's been sending her money. Apparently he's been one of her biggest OnlyFans supporters and has offered to let her move in with him. The whole situation has been a masterclass in how people can manipulate the trust and financial support of everyone around them while convincing themselves they're the victim when they get caught. What I keep thinking about is how much energy I spent questioning my own instincts. For months I felt like something was wrong, but I talked myself out of trusting what I was seeing because I didn't want to be controlling or suspicious. The expensive purchases, the secretive phone behavior, the vague answers about work, all of it was exactly what it looked like. I just wasn't ready to accept that someone I loved was capable of that level of calculated deception. I'm not proud of how naive I was, but I'm grateful I found out when I did. I could have spent years being manipulated, supporting someone who saw me as a convenient source of free housing and utilities while she saved money to leave me. The financial hit has been significant. 8 months of covering all our expenses on my salary alone has definitely affected my savings. But I'm rebuilding, and more importantly, I'm learning to trust my instincts instead of explaining away red flags, because I don't want to face difficult truths. Indy's family has been incredibly apologetic about the whole situation. Pastor Glenn actually offered to help me recover some of the money their family had sent, since it was based on false information about her circumstances. I declined, but I appreciated the gesture. I start therapy next week, not because I'm broken, but because I want to understand how I missed so many obvious signs and how to build better boundaries going forward. I never want to be this vulnerable to manipulation again. Looking back, the hardest lesson isn't about Indy's deception. It's about recognizing when someone's actions don't match their words and trusting that discrepancy instead of making excuses for it. People show you who they are through what they do, not what they say. And I spent too much time listening to explanations instead of watching behavior. I'm focusing on rebuilding my finances, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected, and figuring out what I actually want in a partner instead of just accepting whatever someone is willing to give me. Edit. A lot of people are asking if I'm considering legal action for the financial manipulation. Honestly, I just want this chapter of my life to be over. The money is gone, but my peace of mind is worth more than trying to recover it through courts. Edit 2. For those asking about Indy's family, they're doing okay. It's been hard on them, but Pastor Glenn said they're grateful to know the truth, even though it was painful to hear. They're focusing on healing and moving forward. Edit 3. To everyone who shared their own stories of financial manipulation, thank you. It helps to know I'm not the only person who's been through this kind of deception. We're all stronger for surviving it and learning from it.